Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, an IRGC base is hit in Eastern Syria. Israel and Morocco inch closer to resuming ties. Later, we'll reveal which two Israeli dramas are now getting swept up by audiences abroad. Conflict with Iran is boiling, and the international community seems to be cracking down on the regime in Tehran from every angle. Militarily, Saudi news network Al Arabiya reports explosions in eastern Syria as warplanes hit several alleged weapons storehouses connected to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And the attacks near Al-Bukamal airport mark an area that's been hit many times for hosting Iranian forces, including strikes by Israel. But when asked about the strikes during a press briefing in Lisbon, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu simply remarks, "I never talk about that." That said, Netanyahu is praising the sanctions and other actions taken against Iran.
Iran's aggression is growing, but its empire is tottering. And I say, let's make it totter even further.
Also, Netanyahu arrived in Portugal for meetings with United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, where the two discussed Iran and other regional developments.
First of all, I'm delighted again to see Secretary Pompeo. The first subject that I will raise is Iran. The second subject is Iran, and so is the third, and many more. But I think that we have been fortunate that President Trump has led a consistent policy of pressure against Iran. Iran is increasing its aggression as we speak, even today.
Netanyahu also takes credit for preventing a meeting between United States President Donald Trump and Iranian President Rouhani in September. Though Rouhani has recently alleged that his only obstacle to meeting with President Trump is the United States sanctions against Iran. Meanwhile, diplomatically speaking, the UK, France, and Germany are now taking a tougher stance on the Ayatollahs in condemning Iran's development of nuclear-capable ballistic missiles. The trio says that this goes against UNSC resolutions calling on Tehran not to pursue such technology, and that Iran's ballistics activity is inconsistent with previous endorsements of the JCPOA. Now let's move back to Canada, where McGill University provost has now condemned the student council for the targeting of Jewish council member Jordan Wright. Wright was threatened with impeachment for accepting a free trip to Israel from Hillel of Montreal, but while the student council may be walking back its statements, it certainly isn't apologetic. And here now to discuss is the head of the Israel desk at NGO Monitor, Itai Ruveni. Itai, thank you for being with us now.
Thank you.
How common are incidents like this, and what's driving them?
So many people will say what's driving those incidents in the campuses specifically is just blatant anti-Semitic ideology mixed with some ideologies that try to save the world and free the world from the totalitarian regimes. Israel, this is how they consider the worst regime in the world. And we see young people with zero knowledge on the conflict just walking after those powerful NGOs that's working in the campuses in order to mobilize them to hate everything that deal with Israel and the Jews.
So how common are incidents like these, though? Is this a growing issue? Because here we see, on the one hand, for example, the McGill incident. Then we also have in Oberlin College now, a monument by SJP and JVP to the terrorists.
You have a list. It's a list. Every day there is a different incident in a different campus. And by the way, it doesn't matter if it's coming from the right or from the left. Just what matters is the result. Targeted Jews. And to answer your question, when we look at when you're zooming out and look in all the situations, specifically on the liberal campuses, we can see that it's a fruitful ground. The authorities do nothing to prevent it. They justifying most of the time the incidents. Free speech, it's inside the university, it's part of the university charter, let the students solve their problems, things like that. But what we see is a growing phenomena that no one have the real solution in order that Jews and Israelis will feel safe in the campuses.
Well, I think it's ironic that the argument is free speech, but meanwhile they're using that argument to infringe on the free speech of the Jews on the campus.
Of course.
So, what is Israel doing to fight this sort of this growing trend Is there anything Israel really can do from afar?
So I think the solution, and it is not to go only to North America, but also for the situation in Europe, which is more violent in a way, in the streets, is that it has to come from two sides, from bottom up and from the authorities, from the policy level. For example, we had a vote in the French parliament, the French lower parliament, that recognized the IRA definition, the definition of anti-Semitism, the working definition. So this is from up. And from down, we should invest more money, more human capital on the people on the ground, the students that provide them tools, providing tools to know who are those powerful NGOs that people walking after.
With respect to the, from above aspect, you mentioned France, for example, which is perfect for this. Is it possible that that's maybe even causing more harm than good? Because, for example, we see now one of the only Jewish members of parliament in France now is getting death threats after the passage of this new resolution.
Yeah, so I think the argument of it's causing more damage is has nothing to do with the reality. The reality is that no one, until now, was able to define what is anti-Semitism, what is modern anti-Semitism. And this lack of definition caused problems mainly to the Jewish communities all over the world, from the West Coast in the US until East Europe, and even in other places in Asia and Africa. It's a problem. And we need to define what is anti-Semitism. Only then we can provide the solutions, whether it's up or down.
Itai, thank you very much for
Thank you
this.
very much.
In other news, the coalition clock is ticking and the different parties are still clamoring to figure out a solution. But kingmaker Avigdor Lieberman is now saying, don't bother. Israel Beitenu party head Avigdor Lieberman has officially declared negotiations dead. Speaking to the press, he says his party has done everything to pressure the Likud and the blue and white parties into a unity government and that nothing would work. So now he's decided that his hands are clean and that he'll not sit with either party, potentially forcing a third election. But if it meant preventing another vote, Lieberman has previously stated that he would sit with whichever party tries harder to unite. So when asked what changed since then, Lieberman explains that a narrow government, either left or right, would be one of perpetual friction, likely to create a polarization in the public as well. Meanwhile, Israeli news is reporting that Prime Minister Netanyahu has now officially authorized Likud primaries for December 22nd, 11 days after the Knesset deadline to form a coalition. So indeed, it really does seem that third elections are on the horizon, with all three major parties backing away from the negotiating table. Though Likud spokespeople have yet to confirm the Channel 12 report, calling it premature. In a shocking expose, Israel's Kan public broadcaster has now revealed that for years, the IDF has been inflating its numbers regarding ultra-Orthodox enlistment. In fact, the data shows that in some cases, numbers were even as high as double and triple the true amounts. Well, the IDF has since launched an investigation into the matter, but here now to discuss is Yanki Farber, journalist with ultra-Orthodox news site Bechadrei Charedim. Yanki, thank you for being with us. Now, you were in the military, or are in the military?
I was in the Orthodox unit, yeah.
How difficult is it to enlist into the Haredi units?
Well, it's very complicated to explain because the Orthodox unit is made for boys who don't want to be in yeshiva. They don't want to study Torah all day. They want to go to the IDF now.
So it is willing participants. I mean, we're not talking about the small percentage maybe of Haredim who fight joining the military and end up there reluctantly.
No, the thing is like this. The IDF doesn't want Haredim in the army so much. They don't want so many Haredim because it costs a lot of money to they have different things they need. It costs a lot of money. They don't need. The IDF doesn't need so many soldiers. Now, it's unfair for the secular population that the Orthodox people will stay in yeshiva and only the secular will go to the army. No, it's what the IDF need. Now, the IDF blew up the numbers just to keep everything quiet. And this is very upsetting.
So you think that it is on purpose then?
Yes, it was on purpose. They say now that it wasn't on purpose.
Saying,
but this is impossible because they took people who are not even religious, maybe they have religious background, and they added up to the numbers. Like 1,000 people who went to the IDF, they wrote 3,000, and they lied. They now saying some very tricky answers, but it's not true. They lied. Now, why they lied? Because they wanted to keep everything on a low
They're claiming
profile.
that's not even what happened. They're claiming, the IDF is saying that, that the numbers simply come from, yeah, as you said, areas where former Haredim or current Haredim maybe left the area and are in the Haredi units.
But it's not fair to count it like this, because former Haredim are not Haredim. So what? If I was in yeshiva 10 years ago, and then when I was 15, and when I was 12 or 13, 14, and I went to the IDF when I was 19, 20, I'm not a Haredi.
Okay, so where is this big battle between, you know, Lieberman and Kahol Lavan or other similar politicians coming from, where you're telling me that the ultra-Orthodox aren't really so wanted in the IDF?
Yeah, because I'll tell you why. If the IDF would want more Orthodox people, they would get more. They just don't want. They're not doing anything to get anymore. They're not, you know, going...
The opposition from the Haredi parties that we're hearing, you're saying is maybe blown out of proportion?
Listen, everybody wants to get people to vote for them in the coming election. There will be an election. So Lieberman wants people to vote for him. He said, okay, I want all the Haredim in the army. It's impossible. What is the army going to do tomorrow morning with 50,000 young Haredi people? Nobody wants it. The IDF doesn't want it, because imagine 50,000 Haredim will go to the army. Do you know what's going to happen in the army? It's going to be a religious army. The secular people will not be able to serve. Imagine a non-religious soldier.
Well, but they make you know, exceptions, and they make certain.
But it's too many people. By the way, do you know how many soldiers now are doing nothing in the IDF? They can go home. Do you know, thousands? And it's like, and why are they taking him to the army? Because they need to go to the army. But it's not true. What? The best solution.
So what's the best
solution?
Shortages of soldiers in the army. You're saying those are also maybe kind of blown out of proportion?
Look, Israel is not in Gaza. Israel is not in Lebanon. So many soldiers the IDF needed 10, 20, 30 years ago. They don't need them now. They just don't need them. So the best solution is that the IDF should be not like the American army, sure, but similar, that they should only take whatever they want and pay good money for the soldiers so that they can have a better future when they leave the IDF.
All right, well, Yanki, thank you so much for being with us today. You've shed a lot of light on this subject, and it'll be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Thank you again. All right, now it looks like Israel may have a new friend, and it's Morocco. But the news could just be blind hope, and here's why. United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is heading to Morocco following a meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu in Portugal, and it's thought that while together in Lisbon, Pompeo and Netanyahu discussed opening official diplomatic relations between Israel and Morocco, as Pompeo was meeting with King Mohammed VI in the nation's capital today. And in fact, Channel 12 quotes unnamed senior officials from Jerusalem who suggest Israel was hoping the Netanyahu administration could add Morocco to the list of nations that he's created diplomatic ties with. Before Israel was born, Morocco had 265,000 Jews, but today with just over 2,000, it still has the largest population of Jews out of any Arab country in the world. And though Morocco has never recognized Israel's statehood, investment and business cooperation has existed throughout the years. Also, Israel's State Department calls Morocco a great counterterrorism partner and considers Iran a foe in the region like Israel does. Meanwhile, a recent scoop from Axios, an online news website, suggests that the United States' national security advisor has also recently encouraged 4 Arab countries to sign a non-belligerence agreement with Israel, meaning the country will not participate in a war or any other offensive with the Jewish state. And Morocco is one of the nations on the list, along with the UAE, Oman, and Bahrain. But while it's obvious to some that diplomacy between Israel and neighbor Morocco would be a major benefit, it can't be ignored that in 2017, the King of Morocco canceled his participation in a West African summit just to avoid Netanyahu. Now, as we've recently discussed, the Israel Meteorological Service has recently published a new report featuring some dire predictions. According to the report, Israel's average daily highs are expected to hit nearly 122 degrees Fahrenheit by the summers of 2050. And now, despite the government's efforts, Israeli scientists say that there is much more work to be done. Because in addition to the daily highs rising, the report goes on to note how warm nights are becoming more frequent too. And that will translate to a drop in quality of life for animals, people, and really the entire environment, as energy use will undoubtedly rise in response, especially the use of air conditioning units. While Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz says that they're preparing for the rise by promising to produce up to 30% more electricity by 2030 using renewable energy. And access to desalinated water is also a saving grace for the Jewish state amidst rising temperatures and an ever-worsening drought. But now, over 100 Israeli scientists, including 2 Nobel Prize winners, are warning Steinitz that his plans offer much too little too late. In a letter sent to the ministry, the group argues that Steinnitz's goals for 30% more renewable power production is too low, and that anyway, Israel should have reached beyond this goal by now. It's also been pointed out that Steinitz is simultaneously issuing more licenses to search for and tap oil and natural gas fields, which are proven to pollute more than their renewable counterparts. Only time will tell, however, if Israel can truly wean itself off of its dependency on oil and gas. Moving on, in Israel, it turns out that sadly, one of the biggest challenges in women's health is simply administering the tests. Take cervical cancer, for example. With early detection, the disease is treatable and even entirely preventable. But according to the Israeli Cancer Association, fewer than 50% of women ages 35 to 54 actually get the pap smear as recommended every 3 years. Well, now it looks like an Israeli femtech firm is looking to change that dynamic and hopefully save lives. ILTV's Shanna Fold reports.
Over 200 femtech companies exist in Israel, making products intent on bettering the lives of women. But founded in 2012, Israeli startup Mobile ODT might just take the cake. The company creates digital technologies and screening solutions to make gynecological medical testing more accessible. And their products cover a wide range of issues. In mid-November, Mobile ODT announced progress toward financing its AI-based cervical cancer screening test, or a visual PAP. Visual PAP detects the presence of cervical dysplasia using digital images of the cervix and artificial intelligence comparison algorithms, and it's set to launch soon in South Korea. Among many other products, the company also produces a so-called SANE system, or sexual assault nurse examiners, which is a device used to collect evidence of sexual assault. But the crown jewel of each of these products is Mobile ODT's EVA system. EVA utilizes smartphone technology to not only conduct various tests, but automatically sync the data with online medical databases, allowing for faster medical supervision and diagnosis, as well as more comfortable, stress-free testing. And EVA's already also used in 27 different countries and 70 different healthcare systems in the US alone. So as CEO Ariel Beery explains, we use our phones each and every day. Let's use them to save lives.
Pictures mark history, and this year a handful of Israeli photos are actually featured in the European Press Photo Agency's list of this year's top picks. We'll hear what the photos and more is ILTV's Shanna Fold. Shanna, what's the first photo?
The first photo is a moment of genuine joy from Prime Minister Netanyahu. He's embracing his wife, Sarah, and in this moment, he believes that he's going to continue on as the Prime Minister of Israel. So it's sort of a really great photo because it captures a moment that actually history changed right after that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that said, he is the longest-serving Prime Minister, but what's the second photo?
So second photo, it looks like he might be the longest serving, and there are people out here in Tel Aviv who want him to continue on. In this photo, you'll see a woman kissing a doll version of Netanyahu at Habima Square, which is a popular...
He's got a nice little crown there and there as
nice.
well.
Yeah, he's got a little crown, King Bibi. So that is a nice one. Now, the third photo is of the Haredim community. Here, there's a photo of them united in Jerusalem. This is on the night of the second election, and you can see one person in the middle taking a photo. And
Which is just a perfect allegory for the religion and high tech of Israel right there.
it sure is,
Yeah.
and also the unity that we have in our communities here. Now, moving on to number 4. This is a brilliant photo. I mean, it's a contentious photo,
Sure,
but
it's
in it,
a Palestinian rider throwing what looks like a Molotov cocktail.
that's
yeah?
a Molotov cocktail being thrown, and I think that the photo, you just see it's an action shot. And this was one of the selected pieces from the EPA.
All right, well, what's our last photo?
Our last photo is one of the Eurovision. I was here for Eurovision in May. It was the third time that Israel hosted the Eurovision. The first 2 times were in Jerusalem, the last time in Tel Aviv.
And this is who's this, the winner?
This is the winner from the Netherlands. His name is Duncan Lawrence, and this was just a really fun moment for everyone around the world.
Well, these are amazing. Shanna, thank you so much for sharing these with us.
Absolutely.
In related news, the Euro Press Photo Agency has adopted Israeli images for foreign audiences, but they're not the only ones, as yet another set of Israeli TV shows are now being exported for the world.
ככה פשוט השארת אותו שוכב על הכביש? זאת לא עבירת תנועה. זה חיים של בן אדם!
Two hit Israeli TV series, Your Honor and Asylum City, are now making their way abroad, and specifically to Europe and Australia. But the show Your Honor, or Kvodo, will be airing in Sweden and Poland, where it was just recently purchased by local TV networks. The program is about a judge who takes on a new life after his teenage son kills the boy of a local crime boss during a hit-and-run accident. Further, the show will also be remade by Showtime in the United States, and it has some serious star power. The show is also called Your Honor, which is English for Kvodo, and it'll run for 10 episodes, including Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad as both the show's lead and executive producer. Meanwhile, Asylum City, from the same network as Kvodo,
מה שהרג אותה זה 3 מכות בחפץ כהה בראש.
אנחנו נתפוס אותו.
כן, השאלה היא מתי.
כל מה שמספרת לך נשאר בינינו.
is based on a novel by an Israeli writer who created the thriller in 2013. And this show is heading to France and Australia. Asylum City looks into the world of human trafficking and asylum seekers, and both shows come from the Israeli hit network Yes, for which Fauda was produced and recently picked up in Bollywood too. And now, once again, we have ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh with some more entertainment news. Emmanuel.
Hey, Aaron. So this week has been absolutely filled with entertainment news, and we have a lot to cover, so I'm just going to jump straight into it. The hilarious Seth Rogen and his father were awarded for their contributions to Jewish culture, activism, and promotion of the Yiddish language by the secular Jewish group, the Workers' Circle. Now, as most of us know, Rogen is often seen playing Jewish characters in his movies and has actually recently been studying Yiddish for an upcoming film he's in called The American Pickle.
All right, well, I mean, that's what Seth Rogen has been known for his entire career, being that Jewish guy, quote unquote, and he plays it so well. He truly represents the Jews in the world in the funniest way possible.
It's interesting because actually both of Rogen's parents were labor Zionists who performed in Yiddish theater productions, so they truly represent the Jewish community from years back.
All right, well, so what's up next entertainment-wise?
All right, so for all of those Game of Thrones fans out there, I'm sure they'll really appreciate this next story. Karis van Houten, the Dutch actress that plays the Red Woman on the series, canceled a TV appearance in Belgium over the use of caricatures of religious Jews at a parade in Belgium.
She was set to be on some kind of talk show, right? But she pulled out at the last minute?
That's right. She was set to be on The Appointment Show, but then learned that the mayor of Aalst would be on it, and he was reportedly the one who insisted on legitimizing the use of the caricatures in the city's annual carnival, which was later deemed as anti-Semitic by UNESCO. And then on Sunday, the mayor reportedly said Aalst would actually be leaving UNESCO, which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I read somewhere that he defended the outright ridiculous caricatures that we're seeing right here as a, quote, expression of satire, and that it was part of the edgy humor of the carnival, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me.
Crazy.
And seriously, I can't justify it, honestly.
Agreed completely, yeah. But I don't want to leave you on, a sad note. So for today, just one last quick update. I reported recently that the hilarious comedian Tiffany Haddish was set to be bat mitzvahed.
Right, the black mitzvah.
Yes, and the time has come just Tuesday night. Haddish celebrated her bat mitzvah in Beverly Hills, as well as her 40th birthday, and as promised, released her Netflix special, Black Mitzvah, on the same day. So a huge congrats to her, and everyone needs to obviously go check out the special. You'll, I'm sure, pee in your pants. All
right, well, that is definitely leaving us with a much more positive note. I can't wait to pee my pants on a Netflix series. I can't wait to get home, honestly, and just watch this. Huge mazal tov to Tiffany Haddish. And Emmanuel, thank you so much for coming in.
Of course.
All right, now let's take a look at the weather forecast. All weekend, you can expect cool temperatures, partly cloudy skies, and scattered showers, but tonight should have lows averaging around 54 or 12 degrees Celsius, and the highs over the weekend will sit around 63 or 17 degrees Celsius. And that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.47 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you so much for watching.